All right, Alaska, thank you for joining me. And if you could just say your name and what you do.
My name is Alaska. I play guitar in the band Deus.
Awesome. Okay, so first thing first, why don't you explain to us like your history with Jacksonville music?
Well, I'm not actually from Jacksonville, and it's been kind of an interesting relationship I've had. I moved here from a small town in the Northwest, island, not a lot of band stuff going on, so when I got here at 19, I kind of didn't know how to go about it, so I went the old-fashioned Craigslist musicians route, and I wound up finding a lot of people that way, and I had to grow into what it meant to be a musician. I have been through so many bands because of it. You tell people, hey, I'm from Alaska, and I play guitar. They're like, oh, Jewel, perfect. So I had to make my way from like the Orange Park area all the way out to the beaches, and I've gotten to know a lot of people through that, going through like downtown and Riverside, and I've ended up creating a really big, interesting, unique network of musicians. Like I've got people in the hardcore scene, I've got people in the folk scene, I've got people in the electronic scene, and it's been interesting. Jacksonville doesn't seem like they support their musicians, but their musicians support their musicians. It's a weird relationship that Jacksonville actually has with that scene.
Okay, cool. Next thing actually is going to be kind of related to that is obviously about the recent closure of Freebird.
Yes.
And so I wanted to ask you like kind of what you think that kind of means for Jacksonville music, like losing losing a venue.
Well, and the thing is we actually might be losing another one with Underbelly. Like somebody else bought it, and that to me that was my favorite venue in Jacksonville to play. I've played Jackrabbits, 1904, Freebird, which I'm so glad I got to do last year. But that was the first place I saw a show in Jacksonville. That's actually like my first real concert was at Freebird. It's a catch-22 as a musician. There's just, when you get to the scene that my band kind of plays in, not a lot of people go out to the beaches. They stick around the Riverside area. They stick around the Orange Park area. I think it's an opportunity for somebody to step up and present another venue for people. Because I've said it for years. If I was a musician, I pulled up to Freebird and I saw the amphitheater directly across the street, outside at the beaches, I'd be like, why am I playing this place when there's that thing right there? So I think it's an opportunity. It sucks a lot, but it's an opportunity for someone to step up in Jacksonville, for Jacksonville to really come behind their musicians and their scene and to embrace it.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be one of those we have to shrink to get bigger.
Okay. So in your opinion, kind of what do you think is the state of music in Jacksonville?
I mean, you think about the musicians that have come out. When I moved to Jacksonville from the other side of the U.S., I was like, wait, we've got Cold, we've got Shinedown, we've got Red Jumpsuit, Yellow Card, Leonard Skinner. I didn't know any of this. We've got a really good crop of musicians that have the ability to take things and make them a little more mainstream. But I think the mainstream has changed. So there's a stigma right now with being like bands like Cold or Shinedown or people like that. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's weird. Jacksonville has this potential to just really be this huge music scene. And I think people are just like, well, Shinedown sucks. And that's what we get.
Yeah.
So it's hard to push out of Jacksonville. Easy to push out of Orlando, easy to push out of Tampa, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, all of that. Hard to push out of Jacksonville because we have those names attached to us.
Yeah, because I have like a friend who is in bands in Jacksonville for like a really long time, and he moved to Orlando specifically because they just weren't getting enough attention here.
Yeah.
And like they'd have shows and nobody, like 5-6 people would show up, but now that they go to Orlando, like they have huge crowds that show up just for local band shows.
Exactly. There's not the sense of marketing that bands really should have here in Jacksonville. I think it's just because we're so spread out. It's like 4 different cities inside one.
Yeah. Actually, about marketing, how do you think like media sites like YouTube and other such have kind of both helped and hindered musicians?
Well, it's hard to be a musician now.
Yeah.
Definitely is. I mean, I work 40 hours a week. I'm trying to get a promotion just because I buy so much gear, and like I said, we have 5-6 people show up to a show.
Yeah.
I've sunk $10,000 in the last year into my band, and we're still kind of just getting there. But when we released our EP, we actually had some random guy that happened to come across it, throw it on Reddit, and it blew up on Reddit. That was a big help. The social media thing helps, but then again, it hinders. Like, hey, we're trying to play in your town. We only have 600 likes on Facebook. That's okay. However, we've sold 2,000 copies of our EP.
Yeah.
But they don't see that. All they see is like, oh, well, what's your draw like? Well, we can't get you a draw if we don't play outside of Jacksonville.
Yeah.
So it's like a catch-22.
Yeah, like one of the reasons I asked that is because there's been like a lot of people thinking, because of the emergence of people who only have used YouTube and haven't even never play a show the day in their life, but because of YouTube they get a bunch of views and then they get signed. They end up becoming famous without even having to play one show. Mm-hmm. That's kind of why I was wondering, I wanted to get your opinion on that.
It's weird. Like, I do my own side thing, and I've got more views on YouTube than with my band, and my band is where it's at. Like, my side thing is just for fun, and there's one kid, I can't remember, it's Austin something, I don't know. I watch all of his YouTube videos, his little Facebook things, and he ended up having to put a band together to go on tour very recently. And I was like, well, good for you. That's cool. But then again, there's the people that just kind of aren't on YouTube, and they don't get the recognition they deserve. Mm. So, I don't know. We have to adapt as musicians. Yeah. Figure out how we're going to make our living if we're not going the social media route.
And last thing for you is, what is one of your fondest memories in the music scene?
Oh, we got to open for Paris last year, and it was before Paris really became a thing. They came through in February. It's about a year ago now. It was actually the last show we've played. We played to a nearly sold out crowd at 1904 on a Monday night, and it was just a good show. Every band that played was awesome. The atmosphere was great. After the show, Paris pulled us aside and was like, hey, great show. And I'm like, cool. And at the time I was like, Pivris? That's awesome. I didn't know who they were. Then, they came back through for Big Ticket. And I walked by they did like the pre-show, walked by and they were loading up. And I was like, hey guys, I don't know if you remember me, but then they looked at me like, dude, you're that guitarist chick from that one band. I'm like, I will take that any day. I will take that. And I got to hang out with them, ended up getting guest listed at Big Ticket, hung out with them backstage. And it's amazing just the little bit of marketing that can happen, just a little bit of a hello with them. You get to meet some of the people that you looked up to for Bayside. Got to meet those guys, which was awesome. I name dropped the Hard Girls. We opened for the Hard Girls, a year and a half ago, and then they opened for Say Anything. I was like, hey guys, you come back through. They're like, hey, let's go have lunch with Say Anything. I'm like, yeah! So I don't know, it's cool. Oh.
That might be a problem, but